Hello, everyone. I am Devanya Govan Hunt, and I have the pleasure of serving as the president for the Charlotte affiliate of the National Black Child Development Institute. This week, we are celebrating National Black Child Development Week. And in that celebration, we are lifting up the policy recommendations in the Black Child National Agenda as outlined by the Equity Research Action Coalition, the National Black Child Development Institute, and Points of Access. Today, we're going to be talking about ensuring culturally responsive curricula and practices through workforce development and training, and also investing in Black-owned, Black-led businesses, organizations, and institutions. Today, we have the beautiful pleasure of talking with Miss Latanya Blackman, who serves in many different capacities in our community. She is a business owner, an author, and she comes to us today with many, many nuggets. Hello, Miss Blackman. How are you?
I'm good. How are you today?
I'm
Thank you
doing
for having
well.
me.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here with us. So we're celebrating National Black Child Development Week,
Yeah.
and you have your hands on children and families in so many different ways.
Yes, I do. I am so appreciative of the opportunity to be here today and just to be able to talk and give my contribution to Black Child Development Week is a blessing. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Awesome. So before we get into it, into this Black Child National Agenda and how America must deliver on its promise, Ms. Blackman, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? And in that description, tell us about your decision to operate in the space of education.
Okay, yeah. Originally from Cleveland, Ohio, I moved here to Charlotte about 14 years ago. And with my experience in Cleveland, Ohio, I started working with children in church actually.
Mm.
And I started teaching middle schoolers during children's church.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like I was actually called to it. It wasn't something that I thought about, I was actually just called to it. But it made me study, it made me learn more about children, it made me learn more about children where it comes to church education and spiritual education and things like that. So with that, I developed a love and a passion for working with children.
Awesome.
And I also remember being a child myself and how difficult it was. And I wanted to make sure that I could be in places where I can help contribute to the well being and success for other children. So after moving to Charlotte, I I was transferred to Charlotte from Cleveland with a company that I was
Mm-hmm.
working for, and at some point I was laid off from that company.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of going back into corporate America, I decided I'm going to start my own child development center. So I did just that, started a child development center, and I wanted to make sure that I was able to put programs in place that I could have control over, that I could make sure children were actually taking something away from it. And so I started working with the children, with the parents, with behavior, adding education,
Mm-hmm.
different types of field trips, being able to help them to be more, ex- get them more
Yeah.
involved
Yeah.
in things that they weren't involved in.
Mm-hmm.
We were in the inner city, and so a
Mm-hmm.
lot of these children hadn't been out of their neighborhoods. They hadn't gone to some of the places that we would go to. We went
Mm-hmm.
on college tours. We went
Mm.
to the zoo, Lazy Five Ranch.
Mm-hmm.
We participated in multicultural events,
Mm-hmm.
different things that they didn't have access to. So for me, it was very important to allow these children to have these type of opportunities,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how it all started. Really,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Awesome. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us. It's so rich. And it always warms my heart when we hear educators and community leaders talk about how they started in the church, because our formal education experience culturally began in the church.
Exactly.
And sometimes I think we forget that. So making that connection is awesome. Um, so you mentioned that you started your own child development centers. You decided not to go back into corporate America. Tell us, and you hinted on it some about why you decided to make that decision. And then you mentioned having control over the experience and making sure that children will offer experience. You also use the term cultural in your description. Tell us why that's important, or why it's important to you in serving our children and our families.
So it's important to me because where I'm from there was not a lot of culture. So the culture was us, which is an amazing culture. However, when you're raised in only one culture, it can cause you to be a little closed-minded. And I can honestly say that in some aspects of life, I was closed-minded. And so I wanted children to have the opportunity to explore in their minds, spiritually, and be able to get out of their community. So it was important that I brought that to the children. Not only could I bring that to the children, but then they could take it home to their parents.
Absolutely. So what I hear you describing, Ms. LaTanya, is developing the whole child.
The whole child, exactly.
The whole child. And that spiritual part is one that sometimes when we get into the weeds of things and we're in here in the machine and we're working and we're turning, we oftentimes try to carve that piece out, or we forget to talk about it. But going back to your beginning and your decision to move into education, it links back to the church and this whole spiritual thing that culturally we have as a people. So that's awesome. Now, you were the owner, or are the owner, of the Scholar Learning Center?
Correct.
Tell us about that.
So originally, it was Kids Rock Child Development Center. So I operated Kids Rock Child Development Center, offering before care, after school care, and summer day camp. We also did some tutoring within the organization as well. So in 2020, when we entered into this marvelous pandemic, things started to change. The needs of the children started to change. So instead of offering before, after care, and summer day camp, I wanted to focus more on the academics because our children were really suffering and parents did not know what to do. And so I figure, since I also raise children who are young adults now, I had some indication of what we need to do.
Right.
So I just stepped in and I changed my business format. Right. Instead of before and after care, to focus more on the academics. And that's how I ended up with Scholar Learning Center tutoring program. And so we focus a lot on doing assessments, making sure we can track progress, monitoring students on how they learn, and making sure that they can improve in school as well, because parents did not know what to do. So we do a little bit of after school care as well, but we focus more on the academics.
Right. Awesome. Now, you mentioned assessments, the needs of the children changing, right? So you had the flexibility and the power to be able to pivot to make sure you were meeting that need. And you mentioned assessments and monitoring progress and adjusting your techniques to match how children learn, and not expecting children to learn how the lessons were being delivered, right? So you also mentioned that parents did not know what to do. Based on your experience dealing with all of that, what as a community could we have done differently, or could we be doing differently to make sure that we're meeting children where they are? Because it sounds like that's what you did.
Yes, good question. Very good question. Well, and I know this is going to be an unpopular opinion. I think that our younger students should not have been in virtual learning. I was set against it from the beginning, and I'm still set against it. I understand the risk, but the risks haven't changed, and we're going to school.
Right.
But even with that, our students have suffered so much. Our kindergartners were online for 45 minutes a day, or not online at all, and they didn't learn anything. We have our third graders, fourth graders, who are suffering the most as well, because they were online and parents still had to work. whether they were working in the school or, in their homes or outside of
Right.
their homes. They still had to work.
Right.
And so they couldn't be there. They couldn't sit there with their child to make sure that they were learning or that
Right.
they were actually understanding the material that was given to them on a computer. So that's first of all,
Yeah.
my
Absolutely.
opinion.
Absolutely.
Secondly, I believe that there should have been more workshops for parents. If we were already online, we had all these virtual events and all
Right.
these different things going on. We could have had some more opportunity for our parents, teaching them how they can help their students with their assignments. Whether it be math or reading, giving them some skills and some strategies that they could use at home.
Right.
So they can work with their students, even if it was 30 minutes a day. Teaching their students
Sure.
one new skill a day, one new strategy a day. I think if our parents had access to that, that would have made a lot of the difference.
Wow. And what you just described, Ms. Latanya, is something that the National Black Child Development Institute upholds in one of their programs, which is their family empowerment program. And one of their guiding principles outlines that if parents have access to relevant, appropriate material and resources, that they will always make the
Yes.
best decisions for their children.
Yes.
And the narrative, and you said in your opinion, right, that people had to go, they still had to work. We actually have data, national data, that points to the fact that that families of color, particularly Black and Latin families, were unable to telework, right? So they had to leave the house to go to work, and it was very challenging to be able to sit in front of the computer with their children, and we relied on them for their children to log on, to have access to the material, to be able to have access to a device, so on and so forth. And so you're absolutely right. Our children did suffer, and they still are suffering, and we've got to do something differently. Like very now, based on what you described earlier, pivot to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our children. So thank you for sharing that. Now, I want to go back to leaning more into investing in Black-owned and Black-led businesses, organizations, and institutions. And you shared how you decided to make a decision not to go back into corporate America, but to create your own situation, right? To open your own doors and manage your business, and then have the flexibility to pivot to meet the needs of your community. Tell us about some of the biggest challenges that you probably endured as you were making that transition as not only as a business owner, Ms. Latanya, but as a Black business owner, as a Black female business owner. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So when I first started in 2012 with the first business, Kids Rock Child Development Center, I felt like a Lone Ranger for many, many years. It wasn't until I got connected with the Women's Business Center that I learned about becoming certified with the government.
Right.
And that was about 5 or 6 years into the business.
Wow.
And I think that as a female-owned, minority-owned business owner, that information is not being given to us like our counterparts.
Right.
Being certified with the government is huge. And I never would have thought if I hadn't learned that going through these programs.
Right.
So it's so important that that information is being shared, with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you think if there was something that could have been put in place in terms of policy or just a community of practice, like some general practices to be able to support those who make the decision to walk into entrepreneurship, to own their own business, what do you think some of those things might be?
So also knowing, what do I do to get started? What is, everyone knows we need to register with the Secretary of State.
Right.
Okay, so now that you're registered with the Secretary of State, now what? Some people don't know that you need to get a tax ID number. Then you need to how do you open your bank accounts, and those simple things. And then once those are taken care of, then how do I actually start operating? How do I create a policies manual? How do I hire staff? Where do I find staff?
Right.
Right. How do we get connected with these type of organizations so that we can bring in staff and train them? So there's so much to learn. And even with the small Black businesses, there's a lot of them operating, but can they stay afloat?
Right.
And then if they're staying afloat, are they operating with a spirit of excellence? How do we do that? So I think we need to definitely have more information out there. We need to have more training out there for small business owners. We also need to have, let's say, like a list, a checklist. Right. Do this, then do this. And who do I contact if I have questions? Right. So those are the type of things that we need.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And operating with a spirit of excellence. That's powerful. Like, that's big. So do you think things like mentorship or opportunities such as mentorship might cultivate sustainability? Because you mentioned being able to stay afloat.
Yes.
And that's been an issue with a lot of Black-owned, Black-led businesses, organizations, and institutions.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. How about this conversation with children? Like, when do we start having this conversation? Because we're always talking about college and career ready. And depending on who you're talking to, that might have a different definition of being college and career ready. When do we start having the conversation about generational wealth with our children and being able to say, you know what, you might not want to go into corporate America, or you have this skill set. You probably can venture out and do something different. When do we have those conversations?
At birth.
Birth.
So, we start speaking life into our children when they're born. When they're born, we talk about, oh, you're going to be a doctor, or you're going to be a lawyer. Well, why not, you're going to be an entrepreneur, or you're going to be successful, or you are going to be wealthy. Talking to them, giving them allowance. Allowance teaches children how to manage money. Allowance is not just for doing chores.
Right.
You give them money because it has a purpose.
Right.
And you teach them how to put money to the side to pay their tithes, put money to the side for themselves, and to invest in money, even if it's like a quarter, whatever it is. We teach that when they're young. And then we start talking to them about credit when they're young. We don't have to just focus on credit, but I always tell my children this: when you have money, you don't need credit.
Right.
So let's build the wealth.
Absolutely.
Let's build up the money. Now, credit is good. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with it, because we do need it at some point in our life, but we shouldn't depend on credit. Let's build wealth, and then it'll take care of everything that we need.
Absolutely. I hear you saying take care of community too, because I heard you mention philanthropy. That wasn't the term that you're using. When you say invest in and contribute to, I hear Black philanthropy.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's a conversation that we don't have very often with our children either. And tithing is a form of philanthropy, whether we want to believe it or not, but we can talk about that another day. Another day.
Donating to our nonprofit organizations as well.
Absolutely.
Getting our hands dirty and actually going and doing the work.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it from Ms. Blackman. She said, donate to your local nonprofit agencies. You can check us out at bcdicharlotte.org or mbcdi.org. She also said, get your hands dirty. That means come on out and volunteer with us as well. Thank you for that plug, Ms. Blackman. So I want to talk about something else that I'm not sure a whole lot of people know, even within our own organization. You are an author.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell us about it. You're an author.
Yes. So my book is actually a journal. It's labeled Mommy Mean Business. And the purpose of the journal is so that it was specific towards moms, but dads can use it as well and still benefit from it. But my purpose of creating these journals was so moms and their children could sit down and plan.
Right.
And it gives them an opportunity to plan their finances. It gives them the opportunity to plan for their future, plan for the next 3 months. So not only do parents say, hey, in the next 3 months, this is what we're going to do, but children can contribute to that planning process. And children can say, okay, Mom, I want to save this amount of money. Or, Mom, I want to learn how to make bracelets,
Sure.
and they can plan that out together. So it builds connection among the family, and it builds that sense of security so that children know that they have a say in their own life.
Right. Absolutely. Now, why was it important for you to write this, to put this book together, this journal together?
It was very important because I try to live by that same rule. And I will honestly say that I didn't know that coming into parenthood. I had to learn that along the way. And if I can give parents some tools up front while their children are young, then they don't have to try to figure it all out on their own.
Right.
So, going through that process, like I said, my children are adults now. But if I could have used some of those tools when my children were younger, I think we would have been better off earlier.
Awesome. Now I'm going to ask you a question. NBCDI implements the Read to Succeed program, which means that one of the main focuses of that program is to put culturally relevant and culturally rich, appropriate, print-rich material in front of children and on bookshelves and homes so that children can see representation.
Yes.
Your angle is a little bit differently because it's not written that absolute of the child, but it includes a family,
Yes.
even community. Do you think that families of color, particularly Black women, Black fathers, Black parents, Black families, take the advice differently out of your journal, knowing that it came from someone that might look like them?
Absolutely.
Why do you say that?
Because I could definitely say people of the Black culture in our community, we need to see people like us doing it. So sometimes when we see people who don't look like us, we don't think that it's attainable. But when we see people like us doing it, it's like, wow, it gives us hope. It lets us know that if she can do it, I can do it. And if she has done it, then let me do what she did to get there.
Right.
And let me follow these steps because she must know what she's talking about.
Right.
So we definitely see it differently.
Absolutely. So representation matters.
Representation matters.
You
Yes,
heard it,
ma'am.
folks. Representation matters. And although it can be considered a part of a curriculum or can be built into a curriculum, right? So ensuring that we have access to these appropriate types, these culturally responsive, appropriate types of curricula or parts of a curriculum, and being able to train people to use as community leaders to be able to use these types of materials, this resource that you created and have out there for the world to use. Tell us why that might be, in your own words, like why that might be important. Do we need to invest more in these types of resources? Do we make it more accessible to our community? What do you think?
I think when it's simple and we don't have to read a whole lot of material, to get to the meat of it, we can follow a few steps and then keep duplicating those steps. I think it becomes more relevant and it becomes easier to succeed for our families. So it's very important that we are providing material where families don't have to take a whole class to learn it, where they can open up a page, follow simple instructions, and then follow a path.
Absolutely. So tangible, practical,
yes,
accessible.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Awesome. So, Ms. LaTanya, what is it, if you had to pick one thing to leave us with about, that you want people to remember, to know about your journey, because you've got a lot of experiences And we definitely don't have time to dig into all of them, but maybe there's a part 2 in the future, right?
Yeah.
What do you want people to know about your journey as a business owner, as an educator, as an author?
I would want people to know that I wasn't always here, that I had to grow into my space, and that's okay. I wasn't taught this from my parents. I wasn't born into knowing what to do. I didn't have all of the best experiences as a child. I didn't have all the resources available to me, but I found a way to tap into it wherever I had to tap into it.
Right.
So we don't have to have all the answers. And I want people to know about me that I'm continuing to grow, continuing to learn. And as I grow and as I learn, I'm using what I have and I'm trying to do my best to give it out to other families as well so that they can tap into, their own strengths.
Absolutely.
And grow from there.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. Paying it forward and then using a strength-based lens.
Yes.
That's what I heard. If I'm wrong, correct me, but I think that's what I heard. Okay.
That is what you heard.
So, for someone who is, and particularly, and we lift up these things because we are thinking about the Black Child National Agenda. And we do know that there are some systemic things in place that might make it a little bit more challenging for people, for families of color, for people of color to advance through certain spaces. For a person of color trying to build capital, for a person of color trying to figure out how to monetize their gifts and their talents, right? To make sure that it benefits themselves, their families, and their communities. What piece of advice do you leave them with?
I would say start somewhere. Start with what you have and do something. Just start moving. And all the pieces will come in place. When it comes to the finances, save what you can. If it's $10 a week, $20 a month, whatever it is, save. Save as much as you can. And pay your bills on time. Don't spend more than what you have.
Absolutely. She said pay your bills on time. Because that not only benefits you, it benefits your family, right?
Absolutely.
Right? Keeping children at the center of these conversations. Ms. Blackman, how can people find your book?
You can find Mommy Means Business Journal on Amazon. I also have some printed copies, so I can be contacted at 980-406-4981, and I can definitely get a book to you.
Absolutely. Tell the people one more time how to contact you.
980-406-4981, and you can locate my book on Amazon.com.
Absolutely. And the title of the book is?
Mommy Means Business Journal by LaTanya Blackman.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Miss LaTanya. This has been such a rewarding conversation.
Thank you.
And we look forward to having you back again outside of National Black Child Development Week, because every week should be National Black Child Development Week, so that we can continue to learn more from you. For everybody that's out there listening or watching this conversation, you can find the book on Amazon. Ms. Blackman has given you her contact information if you're interested. We want to remind you that two of the policy recommendations in the Black Child National Agenda, America Must Deliver on Its Promise, is to make sure that we offer culturally responsive curricula and practices through workforce development and training. Our children are our future. They're everything to us, and we've got to make sure we put practices in place that are going to protect them and the people that are serving them. And then the other one is to invest in Black-owned and Black-led businesses, organizations, and institutions. That way, more people like Ms. Blackman, more resources like she's developed and put out there in the community, we can make sure that they're in the hands of as many families as possible so that our children, as she mentioned before in our conversation, the whole child is being addressed. Our whole communities are being addressed so that our children are being considered within the context of families and families within the context of communities. And we're advancing as a people. So check us out. Visit bcdicharlotte.org For what else we have to come for National Black Child Development Week, visit nbcd.org to find the Black Child National Agenda, and we will look forward to talking with you again soon. Thanks for tuning in.
We have an awesome conversation today with one of our partners here at BCDI Charlotte affiliate, and we're excited to introduce to some and present to others Miss Cynthia Knight Boone. Right, I got it right.
Correct.
Good.
Got
I got it right this time.
You did.
So, Miss Cynthia, you've been a part of BCDI on multiple levels
Yes.
for how long? So, when did that journey start?
That journey started back, I'm going to say about 5 or 6 years ago,
Okay.
when I had one of Miss Govan, who was the head of the association, her little girl in my program.
Okay.
And it really even started before then, but she was able to place her in my program, and she saw how quick she caught on to things by being in the program.
Gotcha.
So, of course, she became one of my parents, and we worked together at the center as a family, all of the parents. And I got to know her through that. And at that time, she was not working in the area that she's working in now.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. So you've been here for 5 or 6 years. So that's been awesome. We're so appreciative for all the work that you do, the whole partnership.
I
It's
love
been amazing.
Being a partner with the Black Child Development Institute is one of the best decisions that ever happened to my life and my program.
Awesome. Amazing. Amazing. So we're here to get to know you and introduce you to the rest of the world. And so tell us a little bit about where you're from and how do we get to today?
Well, as a child care director owner, I'm here today due to the fact that I always thought of myself as a teacher. Even as a child, I taught anything I knew. Anyone around me knew it as well. Okay?
Gotcha.
I just love transferring information
Okay.
and teaching. When I grew up, art is my thing. I love art. But as I grew up, I went to school for art at St. Augustine's College in Raleigh,
Awesome.
and became one of the most fascinated art students there. I won't forget Mr. Burchett, one of my art teachers that just meant the world to me there. There's nothing like going to a community college, a Black community college. I just enjoyed that experience because I've been to both.
Gotcha.
And I enjoyed that experience the most. It was just down home
Right.
to me. So at any rate, I finished early. But, I was involved in a lot of other activities, and I just wasn't ready to leave school early. So I went ahead and double majored in
Okay.
education.
Gotcha.
And that worked for me well. My mother's an educator. So I've learned that both those skills has made what I do now with children possible and very positive.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So from St. Aug's, where did you move to from there?
Well, once I left St. Aug, I went back home to Hickory. However, I got a teaching job in Statesville, which is not too far from there.
Yep, right up 40.
Right.
Right.
I taught there for a while, 2 or 3 years, and I moved back to Hickory, but I met my husband. He was from Charlotte.
Okay.
So, of course, I made the transition, and I moved here to Charlotte. And once I moved here, I didn't go into education right away because of the way things were transpiring. So I worked I worked with Belks Corporation
Okay.
in the management department.
Gotcha.
And I did that for 6 years.
Okay. And so you started out as a teacher before you got married, moved to Charlotte, and left education for 6 years altogether.
All together. And then all of a sudden it just came to me. That's where I wanted to be. I'm a visionary.
Okay.
So I just saw a vision, and I saw me teaching and children and the happiness and the joy. And I said, okay, this is it. I've got to go back into
Got to go back.
To teaching.
So that vision, that's pretty interesting. A lot of people are driven, life decisions are made from different events that happen, or maybe different conversations. So can you tell us a little bit more about the vision?
I'm excited to share this. When I was teaching in the school system, the elementary school system, I taught 5th grade.
Okay.
Okay, they placed me in the 5th grade. That was my first teaching experience. And I found that in the 5th grade that it was a artsy school, because art major, but it was an artsy school. I loved it very much as far as how things were going, but what disturbed me was I could see that the melanated children weren't reading on the scale that they should have been reading on to be in the 5th grade. I had students that had been held back, so they were kind of matured for the 5th grade. So I personally took some of these issues at hand because we're talking about people that look like me,
Right.
okay? And that matters to me. They matter to me. And so I kind of got a little bit discouraged with the fact that I could see that the system wasn't really working for melanated children to just be the best that they could be.
Gotcha.
They were just there, making each day count for what it was worth. And so that didn't excite me because I'm the kind of person, if I plant a seed, I want to see a plant.
Right.
You know, if I take some paint, I want to see a picture.
Right.
And so I wasn't seeing what I really felt in my heart I should be seeing.
Gotcha.
And then that's what made it easier for me to transition out of the field. And I did it, like some people said, you did it very quickly. But what I saw was very urgent to me.
Gotcha.
And I didn't feel like if a child had gotten to the 5th grade and could not read, how was I going to educate that child further? You know, I felt like I needed to go back and teach them how to read first, you know, that type of thing. So anyway, that's what made it easier for me to move on out of that situation.
Out of that situation. So what do you think about it? Because a lot of those issues, some of our children, children of color, have those issues, and it's not just unique to one location.
Right.
A lot of cities and towns that you go to have that. So what was it that stood out to you that really pricked your heart?
Well, I was purpose driven.
Okay.
I was purpose driven to prove something was wrong somewhere.
Gotcha.
Okay. There's just no way. I mean, I look at myself, what I could do in the 5th grade. I look at what went on in my life early in my years to help me to feel that I was a confident student, you know, that I could achieve what anyone else could achieve. Because as a matter of fact, I was one of the first, my sister and myself, when the schools integrated, we were one of the first. We went by ourselves.
Really?
Into that situation. And we were in that situation for 2 years. So I spent my 4th and 5th grade being like the only Black student in a classroom.
Wow.
All right. But I never felt that I couldn't keep up with anyone else. If they can do it, I can do it too.
Right.
If they can gather it, I can gather it too. So that kind of momentum I did not see in the 5th grade anymore.
Gotcha.
You see what I'm saying?
By the time you were teaching, you just didn't see that sense
Where
of urgency.
did it go? You know, where's that child that's like myself, capable, that feels comfortable, that's not, you know, I didn't feel inferior. You know, I just did not. And luckily for me, it was a positive experience because I didn't have a lot of negative intervention going on. It was just a positive experience for me. I was their interest.
Gotcha.
Okay, something that had never really been
Had
around
seen
before.
right.
So they were watching me be me. And just happened that being the kind of person I was, it made it easy for them. You understand what I'm saying?
Understand. So from there, you transitioned out of the classroom for 6 years. And so what happened after the 6 years?
Well, I was in management, and I realized that at some point, again, I noticed that I was training. So I was still teaching. I was training customer service, how to meet people. How
So
to
teaching has been the current thread throughout the whole life.
Yeah, even in management, I was still teaching. And so I made up my mind after I had a vision that I was back in the classroom. I was sitting in my office, and I spent half the day caught up in this vision.
Wow.
And I'm in the classroom, and I see children productive and happy. And I was like, when I came to myself and realized, oh, it's time for lunch, you know. I said, I need to go back.
Need to do something about this.
I need to go back into helping our children to gather their thoughts and move on.
I just think it's amazing that that's where your heart went. I think, you know, a lot of times it can be easy to get into corporate America and kind of just get on a different path, but it sounds like your heart just kept pulling you back to those babies.
Pulling me right back because I had even taught my little sisters to read. I was the oldest of three. We had 4 girls. I was the oldest, and I had taught them as well. So we were all very. I want to say education was a thing in our home.
Gotcha.
Being that mom was a teacher.
Okay. Okay. So, what was your first step to get back into the classroom?
Well, I decided I did not need to go into the classroom.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So I worked around, excuse me, a way to work with children, but I needed for them to succeed. So I felt like I needed to start before they entered the school system. So at that time, I decided I would start working with children at the age of about 2 and see what I could do to help them to be better students once they reached school age.
School age. Okay.
And just see what kind of measures or methods, concepts I could come up with. So I took on a personal, you know, this is my personal journey.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So what made you decide 2 versus a different age?
Well, I felt like they needed, I couldn't help them once they'd gotten into the 5th grade. I realized that. Okay. So I realized it has to be a foundational move.
Okay.
All right. So then I also realized that if they got to the 1st grade in that condition, well, how was 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade going to be beneficial to me helping them? Right.
Okay.
So then I thought, well, let me just try something all the way crazy out of the box. And let me see what I can put, how much education I can put into a child in the beginning years that they could take with them and be successful.
Awesome.
And that's just been my whole game plan.
That's the whole game plan. So that is how the Castles began.
Its existence. I started with 5 little girls. Okay. And then I went to 8 children.
Wow.
And then 13 children. I grew with 15 children, 23, and now I'm at the most I can have. The max at the facility that I'm in is 29 children.
Wow. So that's amazing. 29. And so when I came to visit the other week, I was amazed at, number one, I was amazed at all the kids that were there and just how smart they were. Right. And just how they were able to communicate and just articulate those words.
Amazing,
with,
right?
It was
totally.
amazing.
It is.
You know, there are a lot of kids who need that and just don't have that. And so I think it's just amazing that there is a program that's available that's locally here in Charlotte.
Right here.
Right here in Charlotte.
I've had many people say, wow, the state would be completely amazed to know that small little location is doing such great things. Where? Right here in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Awesome, awesome. So it sounds like you take a lot of pride in being right here from Charlotte.
I do take a lot of pride in being right here, and mainly because I've had people travel from other places to come see the program. And they are totally like amazed, like no one knows this is right here. Right here in this little urban area in Charlotte, North Carolina.
What do you think that reason is as to why not as many people as you would like know about it?
Number one, because I'm small. Okay. Now, many people at this point know about the program. Okay. They haven't really seen the program, but they've experienced the results of the program in the school systems. Okay. But you got to remember, I'm small. So for every year, I might graduate 12 children, let's just say. And those 12 children are placed into right now particular schools because the parents know they can't just place them in any school location because they're at 2nd and 3rd grade working levels on many capacities. Gotcha. So kindergarten would definitely not be beneficial to them. 1st grade would be a better fit. Okay, and that would be the top of the class. Okay. 1st grade. So right now I'm working on trying to find school programs that are willing to accept children above kindergarten grade level from the beginning, because a lot of them just don't believe it. They're starting to see it now. I've seen them have to replace the children. When you tell them verbally, they don't really believe. Can't be so. And I know what they're talking about.
Right.
Because I've had children go, oh, my baby's so smart.
Right.
No, they're ABCs. But what they really know is A, B, C, D, L, M, N,
Right.
All right? So, but as far as really knowing their letters, really knowing how to place those letters, how to group those letters, how to sound out those letters, and those type things, they don't know that. You know what I'm saying? So at any rate, I understand that. But what I do now is I try to get video footage of what we do with the children. I have found that that's made it easier for them to go forth into a talk ahead of time and say, this is what my child is capable of doing.
Gotcha.
Okay, and then I write letters to say, this is what this child has experienced at Castles Daycare Academy.
Gotcha.
So
how do you decide, or how do the children become a part of Castles?
that is something that I'm working on right now, trying to make a change. Because what I see transitioning is people don't understand that when they have a child that is hard of learning, they really do need some special attention. Castles is not that. Okay? I've had them call and say, my child, this. And I'm like, but that's not what Castles is. Castles will take an average child and turn them into a genius.
Gotcha.
Okay? But if it's someone that needs extra help in curriculum and different methods to help them to adapt, then Castles Daycare Academy is not the program for that child.
Gotcha. So a child that shows some promise, but that just needs a little bit more.
Not even a little bit more. You can plant if the ground is fertile.
Right. You can plant it and it'll grow.
You can put the seed in.
Right.
And bloop,
It'll
blossom.
grow. So Castles is the ground.
Right.
And
what I find is parents who are climbing. I love to see parents meeting struggles. Okay. Families meeting struggles. Yes, Miss Cynthia, we're here, but this is what we're doing, or we just purchased a house here, or we're trying to do this. When you see the parents climbing, they just don't wait on others to do for them.
Right.
But they're climbing parents. Ding! That's a bell that goes off in my head.
Gotcha. That's a good sign.
Because a child will climb with parents. If the parents not climbing, they don't see any signs of upliftment.
Gotcha.
But if they can see mommy and daddy doing a little better, or mommy by herself doing a little better, daddy, then they're also that kind of person.
Gotcha. So would you say that that's just the children watching the parents, or it's just kind of something that they can kind of
Come
sense?
along.
Just come along.
Let's go. New bedroom. You're going from this to that.
Right.
We're changing from this to that. They see change, and they see a positive change. So when they're seeing those things, then they become, that's how their mind thinks. And I could come in and say, okay, boys and girls, we're going to learn something new today.
Gotcha. And that's a light bulb for them.
That's a light bulb for them. What in the world is it going to be? I can't wait to see.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So how do you see Castles fitting with the current school system? I know you talked about trying to find a way, or school programs that can help the kids kind of get a head start. But kind of what is your ultimate goal, or like what would be your ideal situation?
Well, my ideal situation is, first of all, to get parents or group of individuals that actually can experience, see the experience at Castles Daycare Academy. Like many of the teachers have seen. Now, because I am working on a small scale, I'm finding I can't give the monetary gifts that the school system can give. You understand? All those the gifts that they get. So I have to work on a level where I'm making sure that the children are receiving the gifts that actually the adults aren't giving. Sometimes in my mindset, I see the opposite. I see teachers getting gifts, but I don't see the children receiving gifts.
Ah, gotcha.
Okay? And in my case, I make sure they're getting gifted, even if I'm not receiving the ultimate gifts that I feel we should be receiving. So sometimes you just have to care more. You know, it's got to be more than about the money.
Right.
You know, maybe at some point there could be some more money involved in it. But right now, you've got to have the heart to want to see the difference and see the change in our children.
Right. That's what that's what it's all about, and that's what will bring whatever needs that are just having the heart in the right place.
If your
and
heart
really
is in the right place,
really having the kids at the center and wanting to see them succeed and progress and even excel beyond.
And we do get gifted. Our parents, because we do what we do with their children, I'm telling you, we get gifts. We get lots of love, lots of attention, lots of parent involvement, lots of gifts. It's just not in the form of insurance and things of that nature, you know. But yeah, we are loved and we are appreciated by our parents and community.
Awesome. So talk to me a little bit about the work that you're doing and how it coincides with BCDI.
Well, BCDI introduced my program to another affiliate, Reed Charlotte.
Okay, yep.
With Mr. Monroe Richardson. It's been a while back, not too long ago, 5 or 6 years. And what was so fascinating is she went to a meeting. Of course, I'm at a daycare, so I'm not, able to be out there in the world like that. But she was at a meeting and she was listening to him talk. And she's thinking, but that's not, I know a program. He's talking about the different difficulties he's having when he goes into certain schools and the children. She said, well, I know a program that's not happening yet. I know a program where children are reading before they turn 5.
Wow.
I know of a program where the children are, expedient about talking up and speaking out. And so she said she just waited to the end of the program. That was before she was even a part of this. She waited to the end and she spoke with him. And of course he was nonchalant because it's a daycare facility, for heaven's sake, But she said, but I promise you will be, enthused with what you're going to see. He said, I tell you what, you have her call me. If she calls me, I'll come out.
Okay.
So she asked me to give him a call, and I did. And he waited a few weeks. He did check his calendar.
Right.
He put me in line up under the last thing that he had. But at any rate, he came out. And it was a day that changed his life.
Wow.
And I could see it. He didn't even have to explain it to me. I could see it. But he came in and he had his briefcase and his suit. And I said, listen, I'm preparing oatmeal. Okay. I said, but I've got 5 little boys. And I said, I've got some children that can work with you while I'm finishing what I got to do.
Oh, wow. Okay. He's
so
in for a treat.
Right.
Yeah.
So I go in and I picked some children. And it just happened to be 5 little boys.
Okay.
Maybe that was more of them present. I don't know. Because it was early. So I said, now I'm going to put you in this classroom. And door is open. I can see y'all back here. And I'm going to go finish cooking my breakfast. He said, okay, that'll be fine. I'm cleaning up behind breakfast. He said, okay, that'll be fine. So he goes in. And when he goes in, when I come back into the room, his briefcase is over here. His jacket is off. His tie is loosened. He's down on his knees some kind of way, And I just saw and peeped in and went on about, things were good. Okay. But in the end, he could not believe what he had seen. So I had 5 little boys of different levels, maybe a 3, 4, 5, and maybe a 6-year-old, because it was summer. And I just put some books on the table. I went to the closet area and pulled out some books, and I said, now all of you all pick your favorite book and just work with Mr. Richardson, whatever he asked you to do.
Okay.
And when I came back in, he was like astonished. They read to him, even down to the 3-year-old. And what was so funny, the 3-year-old had picked this little book with Woody, little Toy Story book.
Okay.
He read 2 pages or so. He said, Mr. Richardson said, oh, you read so well. He said, but wouldn't you like to know where Woody's hiding? He said, oh, yes, I need to know where. So then, of course, he read the next page and it showed where Woody was hiding. But he was just so amused. Some of the books, they were chapter books.
Oh, wow.
They were books about different animals, and how the children read them were interesting. Even we had a famous ball player. I can't even remember who it was. But they could really, really speak about what they had read, just what they had read out of the books. They were very vocal they were using articulation. He could clearly understand the words
Right.
that they were speaking. So in the end, he said, I don't really know what I just experienced.
Wow.
I know it's something I've never experienced before, and I've been all over North Carolina looking. He said, I just left Georgia. I've been to Virginia. He said, but I've never seen this before.
Wow.
He said, my head is a bowl of oodles and noodles. I need to go and take the noodles and pull them out and read what's... And I thought that was the cutest thing, but he said, but one thing I will do, Miss Cynthia, is I will be back.
Okay.
And he did. He came back with the university because they wanted
Awesome.
he wanted them to see it. And in turn, they did do a research on the program.
You know, one of the things that I love about working with BCDI and Dr. Hunt is if she's anything else, she is an advocate.
Yes,
And she will
is.
go to bat. If she believes
She
in
will
something,
do it.
she will go to bat.
And she has gone to bat for my program. We have a beautiful garden that that they've invested in our program 4 or 5 years ago. And you should see it right now. It's just blooming and blossoming. And the children are out there eating strawberries and
Wow.
vegetables out of the garden. So, like, you're right. And books, beautiful books she's brought to the program.
Awesome, amazing. It's one of the reasons why
Excuse me.
I decided to work with BCDI. I just love the actual work. You know, a lot of organizations have some beautiful, awesome mission statements,
Right.
and they talk a really good game. But sometimes it takes a little while for them to get around to walking the talk.
It really does.
But with Dr. Hunt and BCDI,
away.
it is right away.
Right away.
And
She's
she is
an
determined.
awesome young lady. Yes,
She
she
is for sure. So we're almost done. If there's anything else that you'd like to share about Castles Daycare Academy that you think should be noted, what would that be?
Well, for one thing, I would like for individuals that are really interested in seeing the progress of our young ones to visit my Facebook,
Okay.
Castles Daycare Academy.
Okay.
I've been working hard over the years. I get a lot of phone calls for openings.
Okay.
I really don't have but 29 and usually 12 a year. So it makes it seem like it's very hard to get into the program, and it really somewhat is. But I am here, and I am looking for individuals that would be interested in understanding more about the curriculum, excuse me, that I have designed for melanated children. It's for all children, all children. But culturally, we have a culture,
Right.
okay? Everyone has a culture, their culture. And I have built my program around the culture of the melanated children, because that's mainly where I'm located. That's what I work with for the most part. And that's where my interest began.
Okay.
Bringing them up to par. What is the missing factors? And I've been working for years, and I have found those factors. And I'm sure there's more, but I found many. And I've utilized them to place children in the school system that showed that the study showed that we're far beyond all children
Wow.
in the district.
Amazing.
So it is amazing.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's a wonderful thing because it's a very easy thing to accomplish. It takes some dedication, but it's very, very easy to accomplish. So I want more people that, if you're interested in working with children, small children, and helping them to progress at a speedy rate to be the best they can be, give me a call, because I would be interested in talking with you.
Amazing, amazing. Well, thank you, Miss Cynthia Knight Boone, for this conversation. We're just so proud and thankful for the work that you do, not just with BCDI, but just the work that you do in the community. We need more like you. We need more like you, and we're just excited about the future. And we can't wait to do part 2 of this conversation, where we can talk a little bit more about that curriculum and some of those factors, to be able to pull some of that out. I think that's going to be an amazing conversation.
I look forward to that.